There is a moment when the old way stops working, but the new path has not yet appeared. You feel stuck, lost in a fog of your own making. This is not a sign of failure. It is the first whisper of a profound transformation waiting to be unlocked. For centuries, we were told alchemy was about turning lead into gold. That was merely the surface story, a clever code. The true, secret art of alchemy was always about the transmutation of the self. It is a map for turning your deepest struggles into unshakable strength and hard-won wisdom. By the end of this journey, you will possess a timeless framework to consciously transform your life's challenges into your greatest assets. We will uncover how the heat of your difficulties acts as a crucible, and what mysterious inner substance, known as the philosopher's stone, you are truly searching for. What part of your own life feels most like that base metal, ready for a change? This blackening is a necessary descent. The old alchemists called it the negrido, the blackening phase. It is the moment you are plunged into the crucible of your own life. Think of a time when everything you believed about yourself suddenly felt fragile, when a failure or a loss shook your identity to its core. That heat is not your enemy. It is the very fire required to melt the rigid form of who you thought you were, so that something new can eventually be forged. This is where you confront what the alchemists termed the shadow. It is not a monster, but the collection of every part of you that you have denied, every fear you have buried, every weakness you pretend does not exist. In the intense heat of the crucible, these hidden aspects rise to the surface. You cannot outrun them here. You must sit with them in the fire. A career setback might burn away your identity as the capable provider. A personal conflict might dissolve your belief that you are always the kind one. This breakdown feels like chaos, but it is a purposeful unraveling. The base metal of your old self must be liquefied, its impurities brought to light before any purification can begin. What in your life right now feels like this kind of heat? That very discomfort is the sign that the alchemical process is already underway within you. That crucible of heat and shadow is not an end in itself. Its purpose is to reveal what remains when everything else has been stripped away. The ultimate goal of the inner alchemist was never common gold, but the legendary philosopher's stone. This was the secret catalyst believed to perform all transformations, and within you, this stone is not something you need to find, but something you must remember. It is your own authentic, indestructible core self. Think of it as the fundamental essence of who you are before the world told you who you should be. It is the part of you that observes the chaos without being consumed by it. Your quest, then, is not a frantic search for a mythical object, but a patient process of excavation. You are peeling back the layers of societal conditioning, the false personas you built to please others, and the limiting beliefs you mistook for truth. This is not about creating a new you from scratch. It is about uncovering the you that has always been there, buried beneath the rubble of expectation and fear. Imagine a career you pursued solely for status, a relationship you maintained out of obligation, or a version of happiness you adopted because it was advertised to you. These are the layers of base metal, the false gold that eventually tarnishes. The fire of the crucible burns these away, not to leave you with nothing, but to reveal the genuine article underneath. That moment of profound peace you feel in a rare, unguarded instant, the surge of energy when you're doing something that truly resonates, the quiet knowing that guides you when you stop listening to the noise outside. These are all whispers from your inner philosopher's stone. It is your true potential and your unique purpose fused into a single, unshakable center. What would your life look like if your actions flowed from this core, rather than from a desire to perform or please? This is the golden promise of the alchemical journey, waiting not at the end of the path, but at its very source. Once the fire has done its work, a new principle emerges from the ashes. The alchemists named this sacred rhythm solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate. It is the universal law of transformation, the breath of creation itself. You have already experienced the first half of this process. The intense heat of the crucible, the blackening, was the great dissolution. It broke apart the rigid structures of your old self, melting down the identity that no longer served you. But dissolution without direction is merely chaos. The second movement, coagulation, is where you become an active participant in your own rebirth. This is the conscious act of taking that liquefied experience and giving it a new, more resilient form. Think of a potter at the wheel. The first step is to take a dry, hard lump of clay and soak it, knead it until it becomes soft and pliable. That is the solve. Only then can the potter begin to shape it into a stronger, more beautiful vessel. That is the coagula. Your life works in precisely the same way. A painful breakup dissolves your story of what love is supposed to be. The loss of a job breaks down your identity as a capable professional. These are not final failures. They are the necessary softening, the cracking open that makes you malleable enough to be reshaped. What outdated story about yourself is currently being dissolved in your life? The coagulation that follows is not about patching the old pieces back together. It is a deliberate act of creation. You gather the wisdom from the breakdown, the clarity from the pain, and you begin to build a new narrative. You consciously choose which beliefs to carry forward and which to leave behind. Perhaps after that breakup, you stop looking for someone to complete you and instead build a life so full that you seek a partner to share it with. After the career setback, you might coagulate a new identity not around a job title, but around your core values of creativity or service. This is how you forge an identity that is not brittle, but flexible and authentic, an identity rooted in the philosopher's stone of your true self. The cycle does not end there. Solve et coagula is a spiral, not a circle. Each dissolution prepares you for a more profound coagulation, and each new form will eventually be tested and dissolved again, leading you to ever higher levels of integration and strength. Your greatest breakthroughs are always waiting just on the other side of a willing breakdown. This inner rhythm of breaking down and building up reveals a deeper secret of the alchemical work. There is a profound union that must take place, a sacred marriage the old masters called the conjunctio. It is the moment when the war within you finally ends. We all carry these opposing forces. You know the voice of cold logic that dismisses your deepest intuitions. You feel the push of assertive, masculine energy to go out and conquer, and the pull of receptive, feminine energy to stay and nurture. You have met your shadow, the part you hide, and you know the persona you show to the world, the part you polish for others to see. For most of our lives, these opposites are at war, locked in a civil war that drains our energy and fractures our attention. The goal of inner alchemy is not to eliminate one side in favor of the other, but to unite them in a sacred marriage. Imagine trying to walk using only one leg or to see with only one eye. This is what it is like to live from only half of your being. The rational mind, left to its own devices, becomes a sterile calculator devoid of passion and meaning. The intuitive heart, without any grounding, can drift into fantasy and instability. The sacred marriage is the integration that makes you whole. It is when your logic learns to listen to the whispers of your intuition, and your intuition gains the structure of your logic. It is when your capacity for assertive action is guided by your capacity for deep compassion. Think of a moment when you faced a difficult decision. The spreadsheet of pros and cons gave you one answer, but a gut feeling pulled you in another direction. The tension between them was exhausting. The conjunctio is the resolution, the moment you find the third option that honors both your data and your deepest knowing. It is not a compromise, but a creative synthesis that is wiser than either voice alone. This union births a new kind of consciousness within you, one that is both grounded and inspired, both powerful and gentle. It is the end of the internal conflict that has siphoned your life force for years. What two opposing forces within you are most ready for this kind of reconciliation? Their union is the alchemical fire that creates true gold. From that sacred union of opposites, a profound clarity begins to emerge. The chaotic colors of the crucible settle, and a brilliant white light dawns from within. The alchemists named this stage the albedo, the whitening, and it represents a great purification of your entire being. This is not about scrubbing away your humanity, but about cleansing the lens of your perception until you can see yourself and your world with startling purity. After the fire has united your warring parts, a deep and quiet peace becomes possible. This is the state of inner illumination, where the fog of old stories and emotional reactions finally lift. How do you actually achieve this clarity? It begins with the deliberate practice of self-reflection. Imagine your mind as a lake that has been stirred up by a storm. The sediment of past hurts, judgments, and fears has clouded the water, making it impossible to see the bottom. The albedo is the process of letting the water become still. Through mindfulness, you simply observe the sediment as it slowly settles without grabbing onto it or trying to force it down. You watch your thoughts and feelings as they are, not as your enemies, but as passing weather in the sky of your awareness. This act of non-judgmental observation is, in itself, a profound purification. Another essential practice in this whitening stage is the alchemy of forgiveness. This is not about condoning hurtful actions, but about releasing the toxic residue those actions left inside of you. Holding onto resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. It keeps you chained to the past, coloring your present with the dark pigments of old pain. Forgiveness is the conscious choice to set down that heavy burden. It is a white light you shine on a dark memory, not to erase it, but to drain it of its power to harm you in the present moment. When you forgive, you are not saying what happened was okay. You are declaring that you will no longer allow it to distort your inner vision. As these practices clear your internal space, a new quality of insight begins to arise. This is the illumination. It is not a blinding flash of esoteric knowledge, but a steady, gentle light that allows you to see the truth of your situation with unwavering honesty. You might suddenly understand the hidden lesson in a past failure, or see a clear next step on your path that was previously obscured by fear or desire. Your motivations become transparent to you. You can distinguish between a genuine impulse from your core self and a reactive impulse born from old conditioning. Life begins to feel simpler, not because your problems have vanished, but because you are no longer adding layers of complication through confusion and self-deception. Your path forward appears not as a guaranteed, easy route, but as the one that resonates most deeply with the person you're truly becoming. What old resentment or recurring thought, if released, would bring the most white light into your life right now? That brilliant white light of clarity does more than just illuminate your inner world. It begins to warm it from within. This is the dawning of the yellow stage, the citrinitas, where the purified self starts to radiate its own light, like a personal sun rising after a long and dark night. Where the whitening was about seeing clearly, the yellowing is about understanding deeply. It is the moment the lessons from your struggles cease to be intellectual concepts and become living wisdom woven into the fabric of your being. You are no longer just observing your life, you are beginning to comprehend its hidden language. This solar consciousness is a shift from being a passive recipient of experience to an active interpreter of its meaning. Think of a painful event from your past that once felt like a random punishment. In the yellow light of citrinitas, you can now perceive the purpose it served. That heartbreak did not just cause pain, it taught you the true meaning of resilience and self-love. That professional failure did not just wound your pride, it forced you to discover talents you never knew you had. The struggle is no longer a story of what was done to you, but a lesson in what was forged within you. Your entire perspective begins to operate from this place of enlightened insight. Your actions are no longer driven by the frantic demands of the ego. which seeks to protect and promote a false self, nor are they dictated by old, shadowy fears. Instead, you start to act from a place of intuitive knowing and genuine compassion. This is enlightened self-interest in its truest form, where you understand that your own well-being is intimately connected to the well-being of others. It is not selfishness, but a profound recognition that you can only give to the world from a place of inner abundance. Imagine having a difficult conversation. The old you, operating from fear, might have been defensive or manipulative. The ego-driven you might have sought to win the argument at all costs. But from this yellow dawn of solar consciousness, you approach the same conversation with a calm desire to understand and be understood. You listen not to rebut, but to connect. You speak your truth not to dominate, but to create clarity. Your intuition, once a faint whisper drowned out by internal noise, now becomes a reliable guide. You might feel a gentle nudge to reach out to an old friend, only to discover they needed you in that exact moment. You might have a sudden insight about a problem at work that logic alone could never have solved. This is the wisdom of the heart and the mind finally united and shining together. Your compassion expands not as a duty, but as a natural expression of this inner light. You find you can extend understanding even to those who have wronged you, not because what they did was acceptable, but because you see the chain of pain and fear that likely fueled their actions. You hold boundaries with love rather than with resentment. This yellow stage is the integration of your hard-won lessons into a sustainable way of being. You are becoming a source of light, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. What difficult experience in your own life is now beginning to reveal its hidden, golden lesson to you? That radiant yellow light, having revealed the golden lessons in your struggles, now deepens into a final, blazing hue. This is the rubedo, the reddening, the ultimate goal of the inner alchemist's great work. It is not a quiet retirement after the journey, but the full-bodied expression of your transformation, the moment your inner philosopher's stone becomes the very substance of your daily life. The red stage is marked by a profound and unshakable resilience. You have passed through the fire of the crucible so many times that you no longer fear the heat. Challenges still arise, of course, but they no longer have the power to shatter your sense of self. Instead, you meet them with the quiet confidence of a master craftsman who knows the properties of their materials. A setback becomes a puzzle to be solved, a conflict becomes an opportunity for deeper connection, and a loss is met with the wisdom of knowing that every ending contains the seed of a new beginning. Your core is no longer a concept you contemplate, but a living reality you inhabit. This actualized state also brings with it an unwavering sense of purpose. Your life is no longer a series of reactions to external demands, but a conscious expression of your deepest values. You know why you are here and what you are meant to contribute. This purpose is not a loud, grandiose mission that demands constant validation from the world. It is a quiet, internal compass that guides your smallest decisions with immense clarity. You might find this purpose expressed in the dedication you bring to your craft, the presence you offer your loved ones, or the integrity with which you conduct your simplest daily tasks. Every action, no matter how small, becomes infused with the red glow of intentionality. This is how you live authentically and passionately. Passion here is not a fleeting emotion or a frantic hustle. It is the sustained energy that flows from acting in complete alignment with your true nature. It is the fire of engagement that makes your work feel like a calling and your relationships feel like a sanctuary. You are no longer performing a role for an audience. You are simply being who you are with a fullness that is both powerful and gentle. Think of a tree that has weathered countless storms. Its roots have grown deep, its trunk has grown strong, and it now stands not in defiance of the wind, but in a state of unbreakable communion with it. That is the resilience of rubedo. It does not seek to control life, but to dance with its every rhythm. Your life becomes your great work of art, a masterpiece not because it is perfect, but because it is authentically, courageously, and passionately your own. What single action could you take today that would be one brushstroke of that red, authentic masterpiece? This vibrant masterpiece of your life is not painted with a single color, but with the dynamic interplay of four fundamental forces. The ancient alchemists understood that all of creation, including your own inner world, is composed of the four classical elements. These are not just external substances, but powerful internal energies that you must learn to recognize and balance. Within you burns the element of fire. This is your passion, your willpower, and the driving force of transformation itself. It is the burning desire to create, to change, and to move forward. But when this inner fire rages out of control, it becomes destructive anger, frantic obsession, or burnout that consumes all your fuel. And when it is too weak, you feel apathetic and stagnant, lacking the spark to even begin your great work. Flowing through you is the element of water. This is your emotional body, your intuition, and your capacity for deep connection. It is the wellspring of compassion, creativity, and empathy. Unbalanced water can become a torrent of overwhelming feelings that drowns your clarity, or a stagnant pool of old hurts and unresolved grief that poisons your perspective. Then there is the element of air within you, the realm of your intellect and your thoughts. This is your capacity for reason, analysis, and objective understanding. It helps you plan, communicate, and see the bigger picture. When air is dominant and unchecked, you become lost in a whirlwind of overthinking, anxiety, and mental chatter, disconnected from the wisdom of your heart and body. Your thoughts spin, but you go nowhere. And finally, there is your inner earth, the element of your physical body and the practical reality of your daily life. This is your foundation, your stability, and your ability to manifest dreams into tangible form. It grounds you in the present moment. When Earth is out of balance, you may feel ungrounded and spacey, unable to manage your basic responsibilities, or conversely, you can become rigid and overly attached to material security, resistant to any form of change. The key to a stable and successful transformation is not to eliminate any of these forces, but to bring them into a harmonious balance. Think of a time you had a brilliant idea, a flash of air, but you lacked the fire of will to act on it or the earth to make it practical. Or recall a moment of intense emotional pain, a storm of water that was only soothed when you used your air element to gain perspective, or your earth element to go for a calming walk in nature. Your inner fire provides the motivation, but your water provides the emotional fuel and the intuitive direction for that motivation. Your air devises the plan, but your earth carries it out step by step. When these four are in alignment, your passion is guided by intuition, your plans are informed by empathy, and your actions are grounded in reality. This elemental equilibrium is what allows the gold of your true self to shine through, not in fleeting moments, but as a consistent and resilient way of living. Which of these four inner elements feels most dominant in your life right now, and which one might be calling for your attention? This inner balance is not a distant theory, but a living practice you can cultivate with your own hands. The ancient alchemists had their furnaces and alembics, and you have your own daily rituals to consciously shape your transformation. Let us translate their sacred art into tangible exercises you can begin today. For the blackening phase, the negrido, the work is about making the shadow visible. A powerful journaling prompt is to ask yourself a simple, brave question. What is one emotion I consistently avoid feeling? Is it anger, sadness, or perhaps vulnerability? Write down all the reasons you judge this feeling as unacceptable. Then write a new story from the perspective of that emotion. What is it trying to protect you from? What strength might be hidden within it? This act of dialoguing with your shadow instead of running from it is the first step to transforming its leaden weight. To cultivate the brilliant clarity of the albedo, the whitening, establish a daily meditation of just 5 minutes. Sit quietly and focus only on the physical sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body. When a thought or a feeling arises, do not fight it. Simply acknowledge it by silently saying, "I see you," and gently return your attention to your breath. This is the practice of letting the sediment in your mind settle, allowing the pure white light of your awareness to shine through the temporary weather of your thoughts. It is the ultimate purification. How do you define the unique brilliance of your own philosopher's stone? A modern vision board can make this abstract core tangible. Do not just paste images of things you want to acquire. Instead, collect pictures, words, and colors that evoke the feelings of your most authentic self. What images represent deep peace to you? What activities make you feel fully alive and timeless? This board becomes a mirror of your inner gold, a visual reminder of the essence you are uncovering, not the persona you are trying to build. And for that sacred marriage of opposites, the conjunctio, create a simple daily ritual. When faced with a decision, big or small, take a moment to consult both your head and your heart. First, write down the logical pros and cons. Then close your eyes, place a hand on your heart, and ask, what does my deepest intuition feel is right? The goal is not to choose one over the other, but to find a single path that honors the wisdom of both. This is how you stop the civil war within and begin to act as a unified whole being. These are not mere tasks, but the modern vessels for an ancient fire. Which of these 4 practices calls to you most strongly as the next step in your own great work? When your inner transformation becomes your daily reality, your relationship with the world begins to shift on its own. You no longer walk through life as a reactor, buffeted by every circumstance, but as a conscious creator, turning the raw material of your experience into something of profound value. This is the alchemist's true legacy, a life lived from that unshakable core, where every challenge is met not as a threat, but as a delivery of base metal waiting for your golden touch. Your decision-making process becomes a clear reflection of this inner unity. Instead of being torn between the frantic shouts of fear and the cold calculations of logic, you learn to consult your whole being. You might face a difficult choice at work, one where the safe option conflicts with a more creative, uncertain path. The old, fragmented you would have agonized for days. But the integrated you pauses, feels into the stillness, and asks a different question. Which path holds more life? Which choice aligns with the truth of who I am? The answer that arises from that quiet center is not always the easiest, but it carries the weight of a deep and resonant certainty. This is how you consistently turn life's lead into gold. A sudden financial pressure is no longer just a crisis. It becomes an enforced lesson in discerning what is truly essential from what is merely clutter. A conflict in a relationship stops being a battle to win and transforms into a sacred invitation to practice deeper listening and set more loving boundaries. You begin to see the hidden curriculum in every difficulty. The world itself becomes your alchemical laboratory, and every interaction, every setback, every moment of joy is an ingredient placed on your workbench. What piece of lead is currently sitting on your own workbench, waiting for your conscious attention? This transformed way of being naturally radiates outward, making you a quiet source of stability and positive change for others. It is not that you try to fix anyone or preach a doctrine. Your very presence, grounded in your own hard-won wholeness, becomes a calming influence. People may not even understand why they feel lighter or more hopeful after speaking with you. It is because you are no longer reflecting their anxiety back at them or feeding the drama with your own unresolved shadows. You hold a space where they, too, can remember their own inner gold. Your life becomes a living testament to the possibility of transformation, not through your words, but through the quality of your silence, the authenticity of your laughter, and the resilience with which you meet your own challenges. You are not a perfected saint, but a human who has learned to dance with all the elements of your being, and in that dance you give others permission to begin their own. This entire journey has been a map back to the home you never truly left. The true gold was never a distant treasure to be found, but the very substance of your authentic core, waiting patiently beneath the layers of expectation and fear. You walked through the necessary blackening of the crucible, where the heat of your struggles melted down the old, rigid self. You discovered the philosopher's stone not as a myth, but as your own indestructible essence. You learned the sacred rhythm of solve et coagula, dissolving what no longer served you to consciously build a more resilient life. You united the warring opposites within in a sacred marriage, bringing an end to the exhausting inner conflict. You purified your perception in the white light of clarity and began to radiate your own solar wisdom in the golden dawn of understanding. And finally, you stepped into the vibrant red stage where your transformation becomes your lived reality, marked by unshakable resilience and passionate purpose. This is the great work, the alchemy of a life fully lived. The laboratory is your own daily experience, and the base metal is every challenge that arrives at your door. Your call to action is simple yet profound. Choose one piece of lead in your life right now, one recurring struggle or frustration, and decide to see it not as a problem but as your next delivery of raw material. What one insight from this journey resonated most deeply with you? Share it in the comments below to solidify your own understanding and inspire others on the path. If you are ready to continue this work, subscribe for more journeys into wisdom and self-mastery. Your transformation is the only legacy that truly matters. Begin it now.